As we all know, nothing happens in slice of life anime. They do nothing, it leads to nothing, and at the end, nothing gets resolved, as there was never anything to be resolved anyway. Today, I'd like to talk about an anime that has the feel of a slice of life, but turns into quite a nuanced, character-heavy mystery anime, with an ending that hits way too hard, especially for an 8-episode long anime. With two main characters, Kobato and Osanai, who both supposedly want to become normal. This being the only reason of their acquaintance, the story takes interesting turns, especially when they are put into situations where their abnormality is forced out. Before I go on, just so you know, I will spoil the ending, and even though I'll warn you before, please keep this in mind. I'd also appreciate if you could give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and with no further ado, this is Shoshimin, How to Become Ordinary. Right from the beginning, when we are introduced to our two main characters, something feels a bit out of place. Although they seem normal enough at the start, they feel a bit too shy, a bit too polite. As if they were careful about each step they took. They lead normal enough lives, going to school and to cafes. They just sometimes need to solve a mystery of a stolen bag or a chocolate milk made in a lazy way. We learn that their normality is but a facade for two abnormal people trying to act ordinary. A duo of Kobato the detective and Osanai the planning genius. The anime seemingly makes Kobato the one whose ability is more eye-catching and out there, which at the end turns out to be on purpose, to enhance the story. As the summer break starts, Osanai gives Kobato a map of all the dessert shops she wants to try. And at the start, it seems to be just that. But as the story goes on, this stops being the case. Turns out, Osanai planned her whole summer around making Kobato acquainted with the map, so that he would be able to figure out what would eventually happen at the end of the anime. Now for the spoiler part, which if you don't want to hear, please skip to this time. So what happened is that a delinquent girl had some unresolved business with Osanai, and instead of calling the police, Osanai decides to not just let herself be kidnapped, but to also, with the help of an insider, plan the whole thing out. Kobato then has to figure this out, and when he does, and he saves Osanai, they go visit the last cafe, and conclude their arrangement is no longer working. From the beginning, the anime makes their relationship seem friendly, even romantic. And seeing them part ways is quite a heartbreaking thing. But it does make sense, considering their arrangement. Their last interaction is well written and so conclusive it can only mean a new beginning for each of them. This can be felt even more when during their respective final scenes they meet a new person. As I said before, a very character-heavy story, fully dependent on how our two main characters work together. And work together they do. Although it might be more nuanced than in other instances of character duos, Kobato and Osanai provide a beautiful example of how two characters can just float together. The interactions between them at first glance do seem as ones coworkers might have. In a way they are just two people working together, but after you are allowed to see behind all the politeness and the kind of wariness they have, you can see that as characters in a story, they complement each other spectacularly. I have said before that Kobato was the more eye-catching of the two, but by no means was Osanai a supporting character. Both of them have had about the same time spent having their characters developed, and I don't think they would work together as well if one was more important, more out there than the other. Another great thing is that the characters aren't static. Throughout the anime, you can see that both of them change ever so slightly. In the second half of the show, after we are already acquainted with both of the characters, things start happening, and you can see that there is more to the characters than what you were made to believe. I heard people on the internet compare Shoshimin to Hyoka or Oregairu, and although I can see why people would put these three in the same category, I wouldn't. I think these three are completely different shows. Shoshimin is neither as cutesy as Hyoka, nor is it a romance anime like Oregairu. If I had to describe it, it is a mystery posing as a slice of life. The vibe is that of no real stakes, and that's maybe the single thing I didn't think was good about it. But it makes itself interesting, not by being chill, but by the nuanced and quiet teasing it does by making you as the viewer aware that you do not know everything. That's why I think it's great, especially because we see the story from mostly Kobato's perspective, and we only know what he knows. And I liked that. The vibe, the story, and all of this is reinforced by how the animation looks. It sometimes has this 2000s feel of crazy colors and weird places, of when one of the characters is explaining something, their surroundings change out of nowhere. For example, when Kobato is trying to figure out what Osana is thinking, it is shown as if he was running towards her, yet every time he arrives at the place where she just now was, she is again somewhere in the distance. Something I don't think I saw for the first time, but still pretty cool. A great way to make the visuals more interesting than just a talking head. In conclusion, it's great both story-wise and animation-wise. A really solid character-driven anime. I enjoyed it and I think you will too. And with that, that's it. If you have any thoughts about Shoshimin, or if you'd like me to review another anime, please leave that in the comments. I'd love it if you could leave a like or a sub. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day and bye.